Alrighty. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Learn to Defend Cyber. My name is Joseph. Today we're going to be working on TryHackMe's Advent of Cyber Day 15. Looks like we got something pretty special. Looks like we're working with Active Directory. So I went ahead and got the machine started. It is still loading up, so we will pop that out on a full screen when it is done. Ahead of SOCMIS, the team decided to do a routine security check of their AD. By the way, for brevity's sake, we're going to be calling Active Directory AD, domain controllers DCs, and then there are a couple more acronyms we will probably end up talking about depending on the information they give us in this room. So they're performing a security check of their AD, domain controllers. Upon some quick auditing, the team noticed somehow that something was off. Could it be the domain controller has been breached? With a sweat on their brows, the SOC team smashed the glass and hit the panic alarm. There's only one person who can save us. Alright, so let's talk about what Active Directory is a little bit, okay? So if you are in a super small environment, you could feasibly, if you were maybe 5-10 devices, even less than 20, you could feasibly go to every device and set up local permissions and do local security policies and go device. Everything has its own, they're all working on their own. You can do everything manually, or you could use Active Directory. Now you see this in a lot of environments, and it is a tool that uses the LDAP protocol, that is Lightweight Directory Access Protocol. It uses LDAP to manage, it manages resources such as users. It can manage services, it can manage groups, groups can be, they're also called organizational units, by the way. Groups, or OUs, can be a combination of services and users. It can be printers, it could be devices. Either way, it is a way of handling and managing these devices in mass and at scale, right? So I'll pop this out into the full screen real quick so that we can get a better view of it, and close the split view and close that out because we got on the other one. So we've mentioned what it's really doing, right? So we can define what these different things are. We have users, which are individual accounts. It's the people that are using things. They are users. Groups, which is users and other objects, or just a bunch of users. For instance, you may have a marketing group. You may have an engineer group. You may have a executive group, right? You would group them all into a common group so that you could do some form of role-based access control, or RBAC, and do permissioning at scale, right? Permissioning and security at scale, that is. You've got printers and other resources like network accessible drives, like a NAS. If you had a network attached storage device, you could also you can do management of those with AD as well. And we're going to go ahead and define a few of the Active Directory architectures. Domains, we've kind of talked about those a little bit over the past couple days, right? Logical grouping of network resources, users, computers, and services. You've got domain component and domain controller name. So the domain controller does kind of what it sounds like it does. It controls the domain. It is your server that does the controlling. Everything inside of a domain is subject to the same security policies and permissions. You've got your organizational units, which is just a fancy way of saying groups or containers within a domain that help group objects based on departments, locations, functions, anything that you set up, really. The forest is a collection of one or more domains that share a standard schema, configuration, global catalog. The forest is the top-level container in AD. And then trust relationships. Domains within a forest and across forest can establish trust relationships that allow users in one domain to access resources in another. So you can have these cross-domain permissions, and that's what that is, a trust relationship, right? So one domain may actually access and have permissions for a user group in another domain, or really in reality it would be something like printers or network attached storage, something a little bit like that, right? Combining all these components allow us to establish the distinguished name. Okay, so you would have the distinguished name, which is CN equals malware. The organizational unit is management. The domain controller is Wareville and THM. Okay, so you've got domain controllers. They're the servers that host AD services. They store the AD database, handle authentication, authorization, which is a fancy way of saying that you are verifying that somebody is who they are, usually by a passphrase or password, and then granting them access to different resources depending on the permissions they have. Multiple DCs can exist within a domain for redundancy. Typically, you have at least 2. If you're a really small environment, you might only have 1. And when changes are made to AD, these changes are replicated across all DCs. DC sync is what you can call that. And that's just so everything is consistent across all of them. What's going on? Agent 57 and Chris, what's going on? Thanks. I love the decorations too. A fun time decorating my office. I'm not usually big into decorations, but it was good to do it. And yes, we are only live on YouTube. I'm only streaming to YouTube. Okay, so you have the global catalog, which is basically a database within your Active Directory that has all of your information that you can query. Okay, and we talked about LDAP. It's the actual process. You use the protocol to query and modify that directory that we are hosting. And it also allows for searching or retrieving information about objects such as users, computers, and groups. So you can query and get information through that as well. Kerberos is a more complicated topic. Kerberos is the default authentication protocol used by AD. It uses tickets rather than passwords. Oh my, it's a little much to swallow if you know nothing about it, just because of how it works. There's definitely resources that break it down better, but we can kind of talk about it like this, right? So Kerberos works on this function of like a ticket granting ticket, or giving you a ticket to access resources if you are authenticated and it trusts you. All right, it will. If you've ever been to like a theme park, or maybe you've been to somewhere where they give you like a wristband and it grants you access to specific things, that's basically kind of what Kerberos is, right? You would authenticate using your passphrase and whatever else you need to authenticate. It'd go, okay, Joseph has this wristband. It's a green wristband. That means he can go over here. You can go ride the water slide. You can go to the roller coaster. You can do, you can enter the club. You can go into this area, but you can't go to maybe like a premium attraction, right? Now, if you look at that in the terms of computers, then you are going to be more talking about like, hey, Carl is in marketing. He has access to the marketing shared drive. He has access to the marketing like threads in Teams or something, but he doesn't have access to accounting's shared drive, right? Maybe Carl has access to specific folders in the marketing shared drive, and not all of the folders, because he just doesn't have those permissions, right? So it gives you this ticket, and then you can use that to get into whatever else you need because you've been verified. It's a bit complicated to try and break down in 5 minutes, but for brevity's sake, we can just leave it at that for today's challenge. Chris tried to do the snowball command. That does not work in my stream, unfortunately. That is a DJ BSEC thing. He is very much on top of that OBS game, whereas I am just trying to get by. Group policy. All right. One of the most powerful features of AD is group policy. Group policy objects kind of like ACL lists or ACLs in general. Containers that hold the policies, group policies determine and set rules in mass, right? So you have group policies that tend your passwords. It determines whether or not they need to be complex, what length they be, how long until they expire, how many times can you reuse a password, if at all. There's different settings you can toggle on and off, and you just toggle it on the AD, and then anytime anybody authenticates, that policy gets applied to their device, so that you don't have to go to every single device and set these security policies. You just set it once. Every time they authenticate to the domain, the policies will be applied. Boom. If you update a policy the next time that they log in or they start their computer or whatever, the policy will be applied. So we can look at group policies. They give us a nice little screenshot here. So this is the group policy management window. We can see what I talked about here in the security settings. You have your password policy, and you have your different settings. There's the password history, remembers what password you used, and it will stop you from reusing them, hopefully. How old it can be, what the minimum age is. So say you have a user that forgets their password every single day. Well, if you toggle a minimum password age in, then it might be 3 days before you can reset their password again, because you make it to where it has to be at least 3 days old before it can be changed. Now, the main reason you would have a minimum password age is to stop users. When you have this password history, say we did have it set to 10 passwords remembered. If someone wants to reuse their password, what they could theoretically do is reset their password 11 times, and then just reset it to whatever they were using that first time and get around that password change. But if you put that minimum age in, then they can't reset their own password for X amount of days, and it forces them to use this new password. Meets complexity requirements. That's always a great one. That's always a great one to toggle on. That makes it to where it must have a special symbol, must have a number, different things you can define. And then minimum password length really should be probably, I want to say the recommended minimum now is like 16 characters, but good luck getting your end users to remember 16 character passwords. That's why we should probably go into passphrases. You use a sentence that you remember, preferably something that's not out of pop culture, and it makes it a little bit more secure. What's going on, Rhonda? Good evening. Happy to see you here. So we can talk about common Active Directory attacks. You've got the golden ticket attack, which exploits the Kerberos protocol and allows them to impersonate any account by forging the ticket granting ticket, by compromising the Kerberos ticket granting ticket account, using its password hash. The attackers gain complete control over the domain for as long as that ticket remains valid. So how would you undo that attack? You would invalidate their ticket. It requires 4 critical pieces of information: the fully qualified domain name, the SID of the domain, the username of an account to impersonate, and then the Kerberos ticket granting ticket account's password hash. Alright, and these are the event IDs that are associated with golden ticket attacks. 4768, that's your TGT requests, and you can use that to look for any kinds of things like trying to access admin or domain admin or whatever high privileged accounts you may have set up. 4672 audits when special privileges are assigned to a user. So maybe you use the ticket granting ticket to give John Doe admin privileges instead of just cruising around on the admin profile. You may be laying low a little bit more. So because you're not in a super user account, people aren't really looking for that. They see John interacting with things, they're like, oh, whatever, But if you have proper monitoring and alerting, then you can see John touching things that he's not supposed to be, and you're like, okay, well, we got an issue now. Pass the hash attacks. So it's a, yeah, I guess it's a pretty simple. It does what it says on the tin. Pass the hash. You take the hash of a password, and instead of using a rainbow table to crack the password, or to crack the hash to get the password, you just forward that hash that you got and use it to be able to authenticate. Okay, and you can mitigate this attack by enforcing strong password policies. Basically, the longer and more complex a password is, the harder it is to brute force that hash. Conducting audits on account privileges, making sure that people aren't getting account or privileges that they don't need. And then MFA, right? Kerber roasting. Tim Medine of Red Siege's technique. Kerber roasting is targeting Kerberos, in which the attacker requests service tickets for the account and then extracts the tickets and password hashes and then cracks them offline, trying to get a plain text password. So how do you mitigate this? You make sure that your service accounts are secured with strong passwords, and then implement secure policies as you should. Pass the ticket, where it's kind of like pass the hash, but instead of passing a ticket, you steal a Kerberos ticket from a compromised machine and then use that to authenticate as the user by just reissuing that ticket. You can detect it through that 4768 TGT request, and then make sure you're looking for unusual locations or devices that a user may be logging in from. So if you know that they use laptop 1 and suddenly they're logging in from Russia on a device called like laptop XYZ, then you've got an issue. And then the 4624 successful logon. That's a pretty common log number. You'll see a lot of 4624, but you can use that to figure out when they may have accessed something or when they may have logged on. Malicious GPOs. You can use GPOs for persistence. It is definitely a technique that happens because you can have GPOs install services and installed software. It can be used for lateral movement. It can be used for services. It can be used for quite a few things. It's actually a pretty cool technique where, for instance, say maybe this is a bit of a louder way to do it, but for simplicity's sake, we can talk about, say I have, I don't know, TeamViewer, some remote access tool, and I make a GPO. I'm a threat actor. I make a GPO that says, hey, every device must have TeamViewer installed on it. Well, I just compromised the domain controller, which is pretty bad, right? You've already got a lot of privileges and a lot that you can do on a domain controller. But if I have a GPO set to where everybody gets TeamViewer and TeamViewer must be running, well, guess what? Now I can access any device in the domain. So any device that's authenticated and set up with our domain will be compromised. And you can use it for, of course, deploying scripts that are a little more quiet than running a GUI remote access tool. But you can have scripts that steal information. You just put a script there, a little lightweight shell script that beacons out and starts a file transfer. There's a lot that you can do. You can disable core security software. Yeah, you could theoretically you could uninstall EDR and whatnot with it. You could take the host-based firewalls down, the antivirus. You could stop them from updating, and you can disable logging in general. And then schedule tasks can be used in parallel with the GPOs for executing malicious scripts and exfiltrating data. Basic way of exploiting this or mitigating this is just make sure you're auditing your GPOs every once in a while and be like, hey, make sure there's nothing crazy going on in here. Strict permissions and then procedures for GPO modifications. Make sure you have it locked down. Not just anybody can change the GPO. Maybe it has to be a very specific user. There's different ways you can go about locking that down. So in a skeleton and key attack, this is the final one we're going to be talking about. A attacker installs a malware backdoor to log into any account using a master password. The legitimate password for each account would remain unchanged, but the attackers can bypass it using the skeleton key password. So, let's talk about investigating an Active Directory breach a little bit. PowerShell, a wonderful tool that you should definitely learn if you want to do any kind of system administration or security on Windows devices, which are a majority of the devices, so I recommend learning it. We can use git-gpo-all, and you'll see that we have the domain policies here. Gives you a bunch of different information about it. Who owns the policy, what the idea of it is, the GPO status, the domain name of what domain you're connected to, what time it was created, last time it was modified. That's a pretty important one, right? You can see that this GPO specifically is the set wallpaper GPO. So they have a description here that says set the wallpaper of every domain join machine. So this is just like an example, right? You would just have it sitting there to make sure that everybody has like a nice Christmas themed background, or maybe you have like a company logo background that you would apply. This would allow us to look for out-of-place GPOs. We can export a GPO to an HTML file for further investigation using this command right here, get GPO report. Flag is dash name, set wallpaper, dash report type HTML, dash path, and that's just where it would spit that HTML for the HTML file to. When you open it in the browser, you are given an overview. It kind of looks like what we were looking at earlier, but it's a little more easily digestible. You have the what it's actually doing down here using a local path. It sets the wallpaper thm.jpg. You have the UNC path, and it centers it. So this is pretty harmless. This is again just a wallpaper setting. So this could be, if this were a malicious one, you might see it doing something like setting a script in a certain directory and then establishing like a scheduled task to execute that, right? So we can use the same get GPO commandlet with a bit of PowerShell foo to list only the GPOs that were recently modified. So that's pretty cool, actually. This is a handy snippet because it highlights policies that were recently modified. It allows you to just go through the ones that were recently done to see if it was done maliciously. Where object modification time. Select object display name modification time. So it'll select the display name of it and then the last time it was modified. It looks like theoretically in order so that you can see most recent to latest or earliest. The event viewer, also known as pretty much where blue teamers live, and by blue teamers I mean more specifically SOC analysts or maybe forensics analysts. Event viewer is very, very useful. This is where all your logs are, or where you can view them easily. You have the security tab where you can see logons, log-offs, log-on attempts, failed or successful. You can see in this screenshot below, oh, that's small. I don't think that zooming in at all is going to help either. Oh yeah, it helped a little bit. Whoa. Alright, I zoomed in a little too far. Let me go back down. Okay, you can see the user CM Natick attempting to log on to the device. You have the 4648 log on action. Alright, and you can see it was the logon attempt was attempted using explicit credentials, which means they provided them. And it looks like it was successful. Okay, I will zoom that back out a little bit, back to normal size. Sorry about that. Alright, we have some key event IDs. These are ones that you're going to want to burn into your skull if you are having to go through logs a lot. 4624, user account has logged on. 4625, user account failed to log on. 4672, special privileges have been assigned, so think elevator privileges or something like that. And then 4768, a TGT ticket was requested for a high privileged account. We can use PowerShell to audit our users as well. So search AD account locked out. That'll show you any of the accounts that are locked out. Then you can narrow it down using your tags here: name, SAM account name, locked out, last logon date, and the distinguished name. Okay, so we can see any of them that are logged out. Well, that's not actually an example of our command that they gave us up here. But what they're running down here in this PowerShell is get AD user, filter property, member of, select the name, SAM account, and the group, expression, member of. So basically this breaking down what groups people are in. You've got admins, you got your guest account, Kerberos, try hack me, David. You can see that CM Natick account is a part of the domain users, or the domain admins, on the Wareville DC and the try hack me DC. All right, reviewing PowerShell history and logs. We can look at that. We can see that it's stored in the app data, Microsoft, Windows, PowerShell, PS free line, console history.txt. So this is the location of the file, and it looks like it's just a little text document that you can open up and see what has happened. All right, you can use built-in Notepad to see it, or your favorite text editor, whatever you want to use. Or we can go into the event logs, which is where I typically go to find PowerShell logs, and the applications and services logs. So you would see, I can probably pull this up over here just to make it a little bit easier to visualize. All right, so you would hit this applications services logs. I think my big old head is covering it up. Give me a second to double check. Yep, it is. All right, give me a second. This machine is struggling, as it tends to do. There we go. All right, let me make this bigger so it's easier to read. I think that's about as big as I can make it, unfortunately. So this is what the event viewer looks like. You have your applications and services logs. You hit that drop down area, you would go to Microsoft. All right, Windows, hit that drop down. You can grab this line here so you can actually see the names a little bit better. You scroll all the way down. It's in alphabetical order to PowerShell. Hit the drop down arrow, and then operation. You double click it, and these are where your PowerShell logs are. They do have their own event IDs that correlate to things as well. You've got script block history. I think some of these need to be manually turned on, by the way. They're not on by default. And then you can have IPC listening. PowerShell console is ready for user import. You can see there's just a bunch of different logs here, right? We can see that PowerShell was started at 12:15, or on 12:15. That is today at 11:34 p.m. And now it's about to just throw us into the deep end. Cool. So let's see what we need to do. We can use the security tab within Event Viewer to answer question 1 and 2. Okay, cool. On what day was glitch malware last logged in? So we'll go here, and we'll go all the way up. All right. And we'll go to our security logs, which are under the Windows logs. Double click security. All right. And instead of just sitting here and clicking through, click, 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 we could just sit here and go to find, which is on the right side, and look for specifically glitch underscore malware. Find next. And we got a hit. What do we have? So we have a user initiated a log off on 11/7/2024. We hit find next again. Alright, it's logged off. Logged off. Logged off. We need to log on. This is special privileges being assigned, and we have logged on. So, looks like it happened on 11/7/2024 at 9:42 a.m. You can see that down here as well. So, let's go ahead and punch that in. 11/7/2024. 11/7. Okay, it probably wants the 07. And then 2024. You hit submit. What? Pardon me? Oh, they wanted the European style. Day, month. Sorry. I'll fix that. 07/11/2024. Sorry. American brain. What event ID shows the logon of the glitch malware user? Well, we have the event ID right here. Event ID 4624. Says it right here. Event ID 4624 shows the logon. 4624. You hit submit. Boom. Read the PowerShell history of the administrator account. What was the command that was used to enumerate Active Directory users? So we can go... Let's go actually look at that text document they gave us. It's in our app data, Microsoft, Windows, PowerShell, PS readline, console history text. So we'll open up that file explorer. Okay. Go to this PC. Users, admin. Oh yeah, took a wrong turn. In our app data. Why? Hold on. Windows, sorry. Windows. Should be in here. Why am I getting lost? Why am I getting lost? I'm blanking on where it is. Oh no. Oh my god, I'm having a brain fart. Oh, I know where this thing is all the time. Oh, I think, oh, you know what? I think by default it's a hidden folder. Hold on. I was in the right spot. Users, administrator, and then view, hidden items. There's our app data. There it is. I forget that that's hidden by default all the time. And then they said that it is in our Microsoft Windows. So it's in the roaming. Go into our roaming, Microsoft, Windows, PowerShell, PS readline, and then we can just open this up. We can see we ran who am I have config. Somebody thought they were on Linux for a moment there. IP config. They ping a 1234 address, a 111 address, and then they run that AD get user or get AD user filter property member of select object name. So we'll copy this whole command. And paste it in there. Awesome. Look in the PowerShell log under application service Windows PowerShell. What was glitch malware's set password? So, well, let's go back to event viewer. We'll close this out. Alright, just minimize that just in case we have to come back. And they wanted us to go to the PowerShell logs, application and service logs. And then it just says PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. So we'll just go down to our Windows PowerShell. Okay, go to our operational. And we can hit that. Hit our from next, find next. Find next. Might actually be better to just filter for password. So we've got a script block here. Let's see. Send admin creds. Once password is successfully generated. Got a bunch of different stuff happening here. Oh man. What do we got here? Just going through these logs. Password equals double quotes. Just generating a password for us. Hey, what's the next one? Do we have a next one? Just scanning these really quick. Interesting. Okay, so we have invoke command as admin. We got a nice little script for that. Going through these different script blocks. Interesting. Okay, so look in the PowerShell log folder located in Applications and Services log of Windows PowerShell. What's the hint they give us? Yeah, that's what I did. Applications Services log. Just simply PowerShell, but I'm not seeing something that is just simply PowerShell. I know this is generating the password for him, but I don't know if it actually tells us what the password it was generated was. Maybe in the details, huh? No, does not seem so. Yep, thanks Rhonda. I remembered. No worries on being behind. I for whatever reason, I forget it. It's not always visible. All right, what's our next find next? Maybe it's in here. Actually, I like the general view better. Let's see. Just scanning through here, sorry. I want to know what this string is. Looks like it's base 64. Oh man, I typed Cyber Chef in all kinds of wrong. Come on, there we go. From base 64. Nope. That is random garbage. Alright. Let's see. Let's find next. I feel like we might be looking at the wrong log, but I'm not seeing that applications and service logs directly to Windows PowerShell. Unless... Oh. I was looking at the wrong log. So... That's my bad. We should be able to just find next password then. Nope. No. Nope. Oh, here we go. Here we go right here. PowerShell password. Convert to secure string. Super secret password. So here is our super secret password for glitch. Copy that. Getting a little funky. Sorry, we'll put the we will put the exclamation point in there on our own. Submit that. Awesome. And then now we can review the group policy objects present on the machine. What is the name of the installed GPO? We'll use that command they showed us earlier because that actually seems like a pretty cool command. And we will open up a PowerShell instance and just search it, make that really easy, and go ahead and run it as admin. And we'll type get GPO all. So we've got, let's see, we've got a couple different GPOs here. Yep. That one probably is not okay. Malicious GPO to add backdoor user on all domain joined machines. Yeah. They're not always they're not always this cut and dry. I wish they were all named to be that easy to find, but that looks like our malicious GPO. That doesn't look like it's the same format though, because they have like a couple stars here. Oh, you know what? It's this whole thing. Malicious GPO glitches. Okay. Grab this and paste it. Submit. All right. And if we enjoyed that task, look at the Active Directory hardening room. Active Directory is a great tool to learn. It is present in most, if not all, mature businesses, small, medium, even enterprise, well, especially enterprise. So if you are wanting to break in even into just IT learning, Active Directory is a crucial skill, because you're going to be doing a lot in the Active Directory window to get people provisioned and permissions, etc., right? So that's it for today. Thank you all for tuning in. I will catch you all tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern. That will be Monday, December 16th at 5 p.m. Eastern for day 16. So thank you very much.